All right, good afternoon, everybody. Hello, Paso Robles. This is Gina DiGirolamo here with the Heart of Paso, my favorite new pastime. Sit here at home and talk to some amazing people from Paso Robles. And today has got to be my favorite day because I am going to be talking to the legend, Mr. Gary Eberle, and I'm so excited about it. So I'm not, he doesn't need too much of an introduction, obviously, for people here in Paso Robles. And I know for several people who don't live in Paso Robles, very familiar with Eberle wine. So I'm just going to bring in the man, the legend, Mr. Gary Eberle. How you doing, Gary?
Not too bad for a dirty old fat man.
And just so you know, Gary, we don't have to worry about the FCC or anything like that. It's no holds bar today, Gary. You can let it fly.
Dirty?
You can let it fly. So, Gary, how do you introduce yourself to somebody who doesn't know who you are? Why don't you do that?
Oh, wow. Introducing myself to somebody I don't know. I'm a scientist turned alcoholic. That's it. I was pursuing, in 1971, I was working on a doctorate in genetics at a charity hospital at the med school. And I published a couple of papers in scientific journals, and I was one of very few national science fellows at that point. I was very successful in science. And one of my professors, instead of turning me on to genetics, turned me on to wine. And I got bitten by the bug. And I said, I don't want to be a geneticist. I want to be an alcoholic. And I transferred up to UC Davis, went through a doctoral program in fermentation science, came out in May of '73, and I've been in the industry ever since.
And the rest was history. It's amazing, huh? And did you grow up in a very, brainy kind of family, or were you more social? Because you have such an incredible amount of sociability, which most people know, or will find out very shortly here.
The sociability part of it, and a lot of what I do, I learned from Mr. Mondavi. But no, I grew up. My mother was born in Poland. My father was German. I'm half Polish, half German. I want to conquer the world, but I can't remember why. I grew up. We in a house with we had linoleum in the kitchen, and the rest of the house had painted plywood.
Simple beginnings.
Pardon?
Simple beginnings.
Yeah, I never occurred. I got into college on a football scholarship. I played football at Penn State for Joe Paterno, and he's one of 3 mentors I've had in my life. But if it hadn't been for football, I was going to go to work in a steel mill in Pittsburgh. That's what kids did when they graduated from my school.
Right. So
once I got into college, I was good.
And you're fortunate. What an interesting beginning to go from humble beginnings, football player, to in science becomes an incredible winemaker and a great, like you said, in the footsteps of Robert Mondavi, a great host. You hold court very well. And so let's talk about that real quick, Gary. We were talking before we went on air. The thing you miss the most, and I think, like I was sharing with you, the reason I started the show is I miss people, but for you, that's your life.
Yeah, well, I can't tell you why, but Mr. Mondavi, maybe because I was a little older than most of the students at Davis, because I was working in a doctoral program, and I've been a student for a long time. But he and I hit it off, and I learned so much from him. I didn't learn a damn thing from him about making wine, but I learned a whole lot about selling wine. Mr. Mondavi, and I mean this in the most complimentary sense, he was the P.T. Barnum of our industry. I mean,
Right.
he drug our industry into the 21st century. He created Napa Valley. I mean, people will argue, but in reality, was and so much of what I do, and I get people say, "Oh, you sit in front of your tasting room, you greet people." I didn't invent it; I copied it,
Yeah.
and
But it's obviously something you enjoy very much.
there's nothing. In fact, this whole thing right now, the thing that I miss most is the interaction, because I do everything I can possibly do to be out front in my chair right at the front door by 1:30, and I greet people. Hey, hi, thank you, come on in. Where are you from? Are you from? Oh, you're from Ohio. Couldn't you move to Pennsylvania? I mean, just get people laughing
Mm-hmm.
and serve. I mean, there's so much that I learned from Mr. Mondavi, and uh, I think I say I'm always channeling him.
Yeah.
He was one of three people that I really, really learned from in my life.
So, Gary, let's talk about, let's walk through the last couple of months. I'm just curious. I mean, first of all, was last year your 40th anniversary, or is it this year?
Last year.
Last year. So 2019 is your 40th anniversary in business. You're one of the pioneers of Paso Robles. I think, what was this, the Chardonnay in 2018 that got rated as like the top Chardonnay? You've done incredible stuff
Yeah,
with your
over
wines.
the years, there are very few wineries that, if you really look, that have won. See, I have no problem with putting my wines into blind competitions. In fact, I like to do it because I like to put my wine in front of 10 different panels of people and see, hey, you send a wine in, it gets, 5 golds, 3 silvers, and 2 bronze. You got a good wine.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it doesn't have to get a gold.
Yeah.
And I like the affirmation, and I would like to encourage every winery to put their wines into the competitions.
Yeah.
And too many people, if they're selling their wine for $250 a bottle, they can't afford to win a bronze.
That's true. That's true. Never thought about it that way. Right.
And
right.
So they don't put the wines in. But
so my point I would like to make, Gary, is, so you're well established, you're doing great, you love being with people, and you just celebrated your 40th anniversary. You had some ups and downs. I know through the last years you were out of the winery, you're back in the winery, all these things. And now we're hit with COVID-19. The beginning of this year, 2020, woohoo, we're all great. Paso Robles is, off the charts. And now this. What were your first reactions when all this started coming down? It's like, oh my God, we have to close down and all of that.
Well, I mean, my background is science. I mean, I consider myself a scientist, and I looked at a lot of. I mean, we've had several flu pandemics, and we didn't quarantine everybody. We quarantined the people that were sick. This is the first time we quarantine everybody, and I'll live with it. I mean, in all honesty, my winery and my label are successful enough that at the end of April, for the first 4 months of the year, we're up over 23% in sales. But it's all for the last 2 months. It's been, I mean, we've got, we used to always have one person doing shipping. People now doing shipping, people calling in. So we're very fortunate in that. I mean, financially, I want this to be over. But even more importantly, the reason I want it to be over is because I miss the interaction with the people. I can't have people come into my tasting room. I mean, Mr. Mondavi used to say, you're not in the wine business, you're in the hospitality business.
Right.
And people say, well, you're going to open up on stages, and you can let six. I'm not going to open up until I can let people come into. I'm not going to have people lining up in my parking lot.
Right.
You 3 people go out. Well, we can let 3 people in. I'm sorry, that's not hospitality.
Yeah, I agree.
Keep it closed rather than try to measure. I want the hospitality to be when you come to my winery. When you leave, I want you to feel like you've been someplace and it's a place you want to come back to.
Yeah, I can completely understand that, and I as well. I've been wondering. I'm like, well, who really wants to go? What's the point? Why go to the winery if you're gonna have to go through all that? The fun of the winery is just exactly what you're talking about. It's that interaction with people. I mean, even to serve somebody, the distancing and all that's going to be a challenge. But so have you been doing any of these virtual tastings with people, things like that?
No, we have not. One, because Stacy had to set. I just learned how to run a wheelbarrow 2 weeks ago. When it comes to this stuff, I'm going, no.
Right. Yeah, you're the smart science guy.
Chris, our winemaker, has done several, and will continue. But like I said, we're very fortunate. I mean, we make very good wine, and we don't have to bribe people. We don't charge. Say, hey, we're gonna. You come to my winery, you got to pay $10 or $20 to taste. We don't do that. There's no tasting fee when you come here.
And you're like the one. Are you the only tasting room in Paso that does not charge a fee? Very few.
There's Epic, and there's 3 or 4 wineries that don't charge. And like I said, it was funny because again, this goes back to Mr. Mondavi. I remember one of the things he told me, people were just starting to charge in Napa. It was $5 to taste, but if you bought something, they would kick you back the $5.
Right.
And one of the things he said to me, he said, Americans are fair people, and you make good wine. You don't have to bribe them to say, okay, well, we're going to charge you $5 up front, but if you buy something, he said, you make your wines good enough, people are going to buy them.
They'll buy it.
And that's what we do. We never charge for tasting.
Yeah. Well, and you have a good retail presence all across the country, correct?
Yeah. We market in about 30 states in 3 countries in Europe. Every single wine we make is worth, we've never quite made 30,000 cases, but 30,000 is what we say we are. But I think the closest we've got to that is about 29.5, but we average about 28.5. But we've never had a year where the last 7-8 years, we've never had a year where we didn't sell our entire vintage of it within 12 months.
Wow.
So
wow.
When you get a wine from Eberle, it is not something that's been sitting in the warehouse. It is new, it's fresh, it's a new vintage.
Waiter, bring me some of that fresh wine. But I do remember, Gary, we were, I think it was one of the Cab Collective events, and you did bring some very, very special, I can't remember what year, it was in 87, 87 maybe? I want to say 87 Cab.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. Again, this sounds like a commercial for Robert Mondavi.
Yeah, wait a minute. Buy Eberle wine. No,
you can come to my winery, and every bottle of Eberle wine from 1979, which was the first vintage with an Eberle label, and that was when it was still San Luis Obispo before I created the appellation. But if you had somebody who was born in 79 or you got married in 79, or an 85 or a 92, I've got your wine. I have aged every single wine that I've made since 1976, before Eberle wine.
Wow.
They're available, and I guarantee, with the exception of 2 vintages that I was never very proud of, I guarantee that all of them are drinking well, because they've been properly aged and for decades, and they're there. I've got them. You want an 87? You want a 92? You come. They're not cheap, but they're here and they're available.
But you can get it. Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, that's amazing. That's worth going just for that. That's great. That's absolutely great. So let's talk a little bit about some of your involvement with the community. You briefly had mentioned, and I want to kind of approach it more, not so much from the wine perspective. I mean, I know you've been an incredible influence on the growth of Paso and establishing Paso Robles and many things, bringing the Syrah here, helping establish the Paso Robles appellation, things like that. But what about community overall? Since we are focusing on this period of time where we're trying to help each other out and support each other, I know that you've been a community supporter. What are some of the things that are near and dear to your heart here in the Paso Robles community?
Oh, well, I'll tell you, when I came out of Davis, I came to Paso in May of '73. There were just under 7,000 people in Paso Robles. And it was a very, very tight-knit farming community, primarily cattle and barley, some sugar beets and alfalfa, but really a farming community. Salt of the earth people. I still think farming families are so underrated in our country, because in reality there's so few. You know, you think about the number of people that feed the rest of us. It's rather amazing, and they're the nicest people. And you know, I've been very fortunate in that I've traveled the world. I won't get into how much, but to me, the best place in the world is, except for the politics, is California, between Monterey and Santa Barbara, and 30 miles inland from the coast. It is the Central California coast is spectacular, and the people, particularly the old families that have been here and farming it for 150 years, are spectacular.
Yeah.
I mean, I love Paso Robles. I love the people that are my neighbors and my friends. And I encourage everybody to come and visit. I think you'd get blown away by how nice a place this is.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. And I agree with you as far as I have a friend who calls what we're in right now 4 or 5 star quarantine for us who live here, because it's just beautiful, beautiful.
If you're going to be quarantined, this is a good place to be quarantined.
It's a great place to do it. We've got somebody here, Ronnie Thibodeau, checking in from New Orleans. We love Gary.
Ron, you big silly.
So see, we brought him right to you, Gary. You're sitting right there in your space, and all the way from New Orleans.
Yeah, I tell you what, it was the city of New Orleans. A professor in New Orleans was working out at Charity Hospital, where I was turned on by wine. And Louisiana, you know, our number one market is California, then Texas, and then Louisiana. And Ron works there. And I mean, also Louisiana, and those crazy people down in Houma and Thibodaux and Morgan City. I mean, they're crazy. And the best damn food. I mean, there is Per capita, I don't think there's a city in the world per capita that can equal New Orleans.
Yeah, but we were talking just before we went on about our food programs here in Paso and how amazing, right? So share what you were telling me about when you first got here, the best restaurant, and now compared to what we got now.
Well, when I came out of Davis, I'm dead serious. I mean, I'm not exaggerating. We had several good places where you could have breakfast and lunch. You know, Smith's and Paso Robles Inn, and there was several places, Vic's Cafe, where you could get good breakfast, good lunch. But at 6 o'clock, Paso Robles shut down, and for a dinner, the single best restaurant was Denny's. and I mean that most sincerely. And we would have to drive to the coast, to Cambria or Morro Bay or San Luis. I mean, and there were some, pretty damn nice restaurants then. Today, I think the best restaurants in this county, with a couple of exceptions, are in Paso Robles. I mean, you could take the 6, 7 best restaurants in Paso, pick them up and put them in LA, San Francisco, New York, Miami, and they would be successful and accepted. It's amazing how the hospitality industry, and I'm talking the hotels and restaurants, followed what the wine industry started. And, you come to Paso Robles now, you've got restaurants that will blow your mind. You've got hotels, 5-star, every range you want, and every accommodation you can believe, from renting houses to B&Bs, a Canyon Villa, Hotel Cheval, Bellicera, the new things that they've done at the Paso Robles Inn. There are some, and Allegretto, holy cow. The La Quinta, La Quinta, nationally, it's a nice, it's like Holiday Inn. It's, sort of the La Quinta here is like a resort anywhere else. It's a unique place.
Yeah, and more to come still too. Hopefully that we'll get back on that road. We might be on a little detour for a little bit, but I don't see it changing. And I was talking to the people from Travel Paso about 2 weeks ago, and we were talking a lot about what we're seeing about to come, what we're hoping to come down, and I think people will. We're going to still have our great drive-to market, the LA, San Francisco. Fortunately, we're in the best spot, right? It's smack in the middle. And it's how many times do you have people in your tasting room, Gary, that come? We came from San Francisco and LA, and we wanted to meet in the middle. And
when we first started, most of the people that would come through, we would see they were coming from the valley, from Fresno, from Hanford, from Visalia, from Bakersfield. Now we get a whole lot out of Southern California, and I was amazed, people. But lately, I'd say the last half a decade, I can't believe the number of people we're getting out of the South Bay. People can come from San Jose, and they can get to Paso Robles faster and easier than they can from San Jose up to Napa, Sonoma, because they don't have to fight. They just get on 101 and a straight shot down.
Right.
They go the other way, and it's traffic the whole way.
Yeah.
So we're getting more and more South Bay people. It kind of boggles my mind.
Well,
it's so much closer to Napa, Sonoma, but just
maybe as the crow flies, but as the 101 goes, Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Plus, we're friendlier.
Oh, we are.
And at Eberle, we're cuter too.
Well, you certainly are, Gary, for sure. What so supporting the community, supporting the community through this whole thing going arm in arm. You worked on the heels of what we just discussed on these great restaurants. How much we really have to help and make sure our restaurants, not, I mean, because they're good and because the people who own them are fantastic and their families, they're our neighbors, everything. But so what are some of the things you guys are doing at Eberle to support that?
Well, we do a lot of things. We do a lot of things individually, and in any given year, we donate a whole lot of money to children's charities. And we do that. But in 2000, I was president of the local Rotary Club, and we started the Paso Robles Winemaker Cook-Off. And it evolved from a competition I had with one of my former assistant winemakers, Toby Shumrick, who's now as Tobin James. And we used to always argue about who was the best barbecuer. And in 2000, I started the Winemaker Barbecue Cook-Off.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we had 7 or 8 wineries involved. And it was and because the Rotary Club, Rotary Clubs all over the world, but they are the movers and the shakers in the typical community. It's the club with the most money. Kiwanis and some of they do work. Rotary Club raises the money,
Mm-hmm.
and our club was giving $6,000 or $7,000 a year in scholarships to the local high school. And I got in there and I said, that's embarrassing. We've got people. We get guys that should be able to put out a check for $5,000 by themselves for this. So I started this, and we started the Winemaker Cook-Off, and all of the proceeds, nice thing, because it's Rotary, there's no overhead. I mean, there's no every dollar, and we take all of the money we raise from the cook-off and we give it to scholarships. And last year, I think we wound up $77,000 we gave to the local high school. And the goal, when I originally set it up, our goal was to get to $50,000 a year to the high school, and we blew right past that. And now we're saying, hey, let's give. The goal is now $100,000 a year.
Wow!
From to Paso Robles High School, because I would never have gone to college without a scholarship. In my case, it was football.
Mm-hmm.
There was no such thing as Pell Grants, but you give somebody a scholarship, a $300 or $500 scholarship, that buys a book or two. And we give the Rotary Club in Paso Robles, when you get a scholarship, it's a significant amount of money. I sincerely believe that education is the way to improve yourself. And I mean, there's nothing, I don't think there's anything I can think of that I am prouder about than having started this program, and it's 20 years old now. And we put a foundation aside, because all of these things, they have they run, and then but we've got, I think, about $1.5 million in the foundation.
Wow.
And we're not touching it. The foundation is so that when this thing finally dies, and it will, as all these things do, they'll be able to take hopefully $100,000 a year out of it on interest.
Wow.
And we got some great guys doing the investment in the market. But I really, like I said, I think probably of all the things I have done, it's probably the thing that I feel most comfortable about.
Mm-hmm. You should be proud. It's pretty impressive, and it's a great thing to give back to the community for sure. You did say that earlier about the restaurants here, that we need. You're feeling, and I agree with you, that we have to do what we can. to support our restaurants. We don't know. We know there's a lot of talk right now about what's coming down the pike, what we can do, and just because a restaurant can open right now with limited seating and capacity, it's still very challenging.
Yeah, one of the things we're doing is Stacy, our marketing director, we got one marketing person, and she started this, oh geez, at least a month ago, over a month ago. And on any given day, because we're still allowed to make wine, and we've got people in here, because we all of my employees are being paid. They don't have to go on unemployment. We're paying everybody, even though they're not here, and we're paying the medical, the dental, the optical. But she started this program, and we have about 10 people a day here, and we buy lunch. The winery is buying lunch for 10 people from all of the local restaurants. And, several that are closed. Hopefully they're going to open up, but we are going around, and we're doing everything we can to, hey, you guys, we recognize what you're doing. You can't go in and sit down, but we do takeout. And like today, I had a great pastrami sandwich. I mean, we do Mexican, Chinese, China Gourmet here in town, Benetabla, El Cotile. I mean, all the fish gaucho. I mean, we do as much as we possibly can. Not that I need the food.
Well, the nice thing is we have so many now that we've got great variety. It's not like the Denny's days. You can.
It's spectacular, and I want them all. Bistro. I mean, I want these people. Please don't give up. Don't throw in the towel. It's going to come around. It's going to be better. The restaurants are such an integral part of how successful our wine industry has become, just like the hotels in Paso.
Definitely, it's an arm-in-arm process now. We're all in it together. We've all been helping each other, keeping the boats afloat, and I would like to continue to see that. I know you are. I can tell. You remind me a lot of my father and his philosophies, and the way I grew up is like, we got to take care of each other. You treat each other nice. Hospitality is very important. Let's keep talking about where we're similar and not focus on wherever we're different. And we'll come out of this, and I get that that's your belief. And I know none of us has a crystal ball, but if you had a year from now, what would you like to see?
I'm looking at it from, I always look at it from sort of what's going on science-wise. I think that within a year, probably less than a year, they're going to, because of the way the scientists, and I mean, it's so much better than when I was at the med school and working. They're going to have a vaccine for this. And once there's a vaccine, and this becomes something in our past, I think our industry is going to, and I think the United States, we're certainly going to have suffered some significant losses. If you look at, the entire 50 states, it's going to be some problem. But I really believe that we are moving in the right direction. I think more and more of the country as it opens up, and people are going to start being less concerned about traveling around This country has got so much to offer. I mean, I've been very fortunate. Like I said, I've been able to travel the world, and I've never. I mean, there are a lot of places that I like. Portofino in Italy, and there's places Germany and Switzerland, in southern France, and Spain and Portugal. But I'll tell you what, it's there's the United States really is something special, and I'm a little. I mean, I was never a great say patriot, whatever, constitutionalist, but I think more and more is you look at the Constitution of this country and how this country was founded, and how and the way people, the freedoms that we have, that we take so much for granted.
Right.
And I think we've lost a little bit of it. I think we're going to get it all back, and I'm going to make a lot of enemies. But I really think that our current president has done more good for us than he has done harm, and I think we're on the right track, and I'm hoping that 6 months, 8 months, 10 months from now, that we will be back to where we were in December. I believe certainly we have the potential. This has been a big hit, but I'm not worried about our industry will be. Yeah. I'm just concerned about the whole. I don't mean to turn this into a political advertisement, but I think we're probably going to be in a position where we can again smile and say, "Hey, it's America, and it's my country, and California is my state, and we're going to do what we do."
Well, I think Gary, we're all on the same page. We all are ready to do what we have to do to get ourselves back in a good position. Yeah, we all have different ideas on how to do it, but I know that we all want the same things, and that's a really good thing.
This is going to have to come to an end pretty soon. I'm almost out of wine.
I know. You're going to have to refill your glass. Wow.
Can you imagine what would happen if I sobered up?
Yeah. Well, why don't you tell us real quick, what are you drinking anyway?
Cabernet.
That's it. That's your thing, huh?
In the early 70s, I was down in New Orleans, Charity Hospital, and a professor and I, we both loved opera, and we'd go back and forth. And when he came to my place, I would serve him the finest wines of the time, Mateus and Lancers and Blue Nun.
Right.
Because, in 1970, if you didn't have an empty bottle of Mateus on your table with a candle in it, a single wine, and he would serve me, 66 Lynch-Bage and Chateau Latour and Margaux, and he won.
Yeah.
And it was Cabernet.
And there you go.
The Bordelais varieties and Cabernet. And to this day, Cabernet is at least 70% of what I consume.
Well, that's a good thing. A lot of us are there with you, and fortunately, there's a lot of other fun stuff to have too. And you guys make a lot of good stuff too, Gary. Gary, thanks so much for giving us time today to sit and hang out with you, and hopefully, we give you a little feeling of having some people back around you and hanging out with you. And we're so grateful for all you've done for Paso Robles, and that you are such a huge part of Paso. And thank you for keeping your tasting room just that beautiful open space, not charging and all of that. I love what you've said so far about you're not going to really open it until you can really open it. So we're going to be waiting for that.
Yeah, I just can't. I just don't see people lined up in the parking lot It just,
Right.
it's, I mean, on on a typical Saturday, we get 500 people through here.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah. How are you going to stop that?
and it's,
Right.
but
Well,
thank you. And
yeah.
I want to tell you, I really appreciate what you're doing for Paso and what you're doing for our community and for our industry. I mean, I think that what you have done and what you are doing, and keeping the spark alive and keeping things going. And we're going to come out of this. This is
Yeah.
temporary.
Definitely. All right, Gary. Well, thanks so much. Just going to sign off here to my guests real quick. So thank you everybody for hanging out with us today. What a great opportunity to sit here and talk to Gary. If you're just catching us, go ahead and turn us back to the beginning and watch us share this. Gary's got some great things to share with us on how he's going to approach opening the winery when it's time. Some thoughts about where we're headed and the great things we have to offer here in Paso Robles and why it's so great. Gary's a legend. Please go to his website, check it out, buy their wine. They just make wonderful wine. And thank you so much for joining us again on another episode of The Heart of Paso. I'm always open to suggestions for guests. We're going to have couple more episodes next week and the week after I've got lined up. But like I said, always open to more. So have a great afternoon and evening, everybody, and enjoy a nice glass of wine.